because it won't be the same for each company. If you're an office worker with 1,000 staff and 10 of them show up sick one day, I'd be seriously thinking about it right now. Just one person shows up sick, probably not.
I mean, my own disaster preparedness plan in terms of pandemics is structured towards WHO phases. But the more I read and the more I hear you talk, I think it's almost
the WHO response
confusing.
Their response will be late.
Yeah, they'll be late, they're not targeted for our particular place and situation, and they can't handle severity.
No.
So why bother with it at all?
At least they can get the message out to the world, and by doing what they've done, they have at least made people aware of things in the past couple of years.
But they're more oriented towards national public health systems.
Correct.
Rather than private companies.
Correct. So you're right, I wouldn't necessarily use...
Yeah, I like the idea of trigger events.
Yeah.
That you can configure
yes.
to your own
your manager,
situation.
Your manager makes a decision at the time. Okay, why do I recommend that for every business? Well, the good thing is that it's low cost because it's simple to do, and it protects all your staff and operations. It can provide confidence for your customers, your suppliers, your stakeholders, the things that we said before you should be responsible for anyway. You can take the same basic model and adapt it to any disaster. And this is my particular model, and I've used it to make plans for the pandemic in many cases, 4 different continents now. But I've done it for IT disasters, I've used it for fires, for floods, and for various other events. I've made plans using the same model. I've even used the system for hailstorm that hit my own company a number of years ago, and an IT disaster. The other thing is that we have, in the detail of the plan, I don't have time today, but it's linked, it can be linked easily to other organisations and other people's plans. Okay, again for the Aussie here, it's the same basic model as the emergency services use in Australia to activate the firefighters and those sort of groups very quickly on a large scale, and where they're running multiple teams at the same time. So depending on the size of your companies, you may actually have multiple teams responding to different things at the same time. So this, you might have key suppliers or partners. Okay, one of the things I really like about it is that you could easily, if you put it in your company, you can easily use it to go to your suppliers and say, guys, I want you to do something as well, because I want you to be around as well. Okay, corporate social responsibility, I'll get there sometime. Okay, if you were to help others, your suppliers or other companies or other groups who you think don't have something like this right now, I think that would be socially responsible right now. If a company was to go and encourage others to make plans for this sort of thing, I think that'd be a good thing right now. So if you look at the new projects. A little quick update, because we're probably going to start running out of time soon. Yeah, oh, yes. The last couple slides. Who has made preparations in Thailand? I can tell you right now, basically nobody has made really good plans at the moment. I know that the WHO and the UN have some sort of plans. The Red Cross, I would call 50-50 at best. The British Red Cross, the American Red Cross, the Norwegian Red Crosses have really good plans. I've seen them. But each of those countries are separate Red Cross entities. The main head office and things like that, that's why they called me to Geneva last week. So we're still working on it now. It'll be in place soon, but most other countries that have Red Cross organisations don't have plans today. Australian, UK, Japanese, Singaporean governments have probably the best prepared. I know that they have documented plans. I know they have done exercises. Okay? And I know that at least 3 of those will have in their plans that they will close borders. Okay, so I think if you've thought about closing your own border, then you're pretty serious about your planning. I know that there are some companies locally who have outlines of plans. However, I can tell you right now, is there anybody who works for a Thai bank? Okay. I I can tell you right now that just about all the Thai banks don't have any plans for pandemics.
Well, I don't think that's true, actually. The Finance Ministry and the Bank of Thailand have mandated that all banks should have plans.
And everybody should wear a seatbelt in Thailand too, right?
They began planning last year,
And everybody
and
should
they've
wear a helmet when they
submitted
ride a
draft
motorbike.
plans. And I'm not saying they're all the way there, but they certainly have plans. But they haven't tested them, and the plans haven't been approved.
And they're very general, high-level plans. They're not anywhere detailed like what you really need to make work. I tell you straight away, I've dealt with a couple of Thai banks myself. I won't name any names here, but it is a definite problem that if the banks start having a problem in Thailand with the pandemic, and remember that banks in Thailand have huge numbers of people working inside an office, so if a couple of them start getting sick and they come to work, then a bank very quickly will lose a lot of its staff.
Would that help the world economic crisis?
Could do. Everybody starts going to an ATM machine to get cash, by the way, but everyone starts infecting the ATM machines and the next person comes and gets the virus off the ATM machine, so things like that. And I can also tell you this one is true.
What about hospitals?
I'm currently under negotiations with the Thai Health Department about starting. So I know they don't right now.
But you mean nothing flowed on from the...
They have some guidelines. The Thai government and the Thai Health Department have done it, and I sort of make light of that. The Thai Health Department have done a lot of work in this area already, but they've issued a set of sort of guidelines for doing it rather than making specific plans. I've actually got copies of their documents, and they've encouraged the various hospitals and other groups to have thought about it, but nobody's ever really done a detailed plan with a detailed system, and certainly none of the hospitals, to my knowledge, have run any tests to see how they would work. And the other thing you have to bear in mind, a couple of countries have run tests in hospitals for this sort of disaster. To give you an idea, one country did it, and there's a river in the middle of the city. The hospital is on this side, that's the rich area. Okay, it's a nice international hospital, they have good conditions and everything. All the doctors live over this side, okay, but all the nurses, and in particular the cleaning staff, live on this side of the river. And the scenario that was put to them effectively closed the bridge. This hospital in the scenario was closed within about an hour. They had to shut it because of no cleaning staff. So that's the sort of thing that will hit hospitals here that hasn't been done, because the plans I've seen to date aren't coordinated and aren't linked to suppliers and things like that. So the hospitals may have some plans, but I'm pretty sure, because I actually know some of the companies that provide the cleaners and the security guards and things like that to the hospitals, they don't have plans as well. And you need all of them in this case.
We looked at some hospital plans, and they're generally oriented towards an air crash or a fire and having lots of victims coming in.
Yeah.
What they don't take account of is that their own people in a pandemic will be sick. What happens if the only guy who knows how to fix the generator is out sick? And the only guy who knows how to fix the different equipment.
That's actually the problem with the WHO and the UN and the Red Cross plans, by the way, and I've seen them. They're very good, and the Red Cross are the best in the world at responding to outside disasters. But inside their organisation today, they don't have any plans for doing it. And the Secretary General of the Red Cross, I was in his office about a week ago today, talking about this very issue, and he knows it. And that's why they're asking people like me to come over and help. So a lot of these organisations, the hospitals, they can respond to other people getting sick, but they've never made a plan for how to run their own operations under those conditions. Okay, that's where I think I'm going to have to leave it. I won't bother going into all the slides and.
Okay, well, okay, fine. Well, I know you need to cut away here, so we're going to have time for Q&A. I take it then.
Ask me a couple of questions quickly. And
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple questions quickly.
Andrew, can you tell us where we can get access to a generic plan or maybe a more specific detailed plan?
That's me. We said at the start, there are only a couple of companies in Thailand who do this. There are only 3 people, to my knowledge, that are qualified by the international organisation who do this. That's the UK Business Continuity Institute. That's me, one Thai guy who works for Siam City Cement, so he's internally already occupied, and another guy, Alan Craig, I don't know if anybody knows him. He's 65 or so and basically retired. He lives down in Ekamai. He's a friend of mine. So I'm the only active external consultant who does this. You could hire PwC and those guys. They'll bring in experts from outside Thailand. There's a guy in Malaysia and a guy in Singapore who are both the same qualifications as me, but they'll both fly in from the other countries and you've got to pay a lot more than that. I'm actually, me and only one other entity that I know of are operating in Thailand today to do this sort of work.
This presentation will be available, which you seem to be available, so you can download it, get some ideas, and also you'll have his email.
There is a Thai business continuity consultant based in Singapore, and he comes up here from time to time.
I believe the Singaporean guy, Henry, he's employed, I think the guy you talk about works for the Singaporean guy, and I actually believe the Thai guy is now operating out of a Bangkok office.
Oh, he's back here?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
he's here all the time
I
now.
met him about 1.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We'll just let Andrew get on the road. Okay, well then, join me in thanking Andrew for the presentation.
Sorry, I haven't got
Did you, so you transferred it over, just wanted to chop off the last 2